don't think I saw Read AI pop up, just the recording. I hit recording, just so everybody knows. And Nisaa and Sue Ellen, you're okay with me sharing it on YouTube?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Thank you for presenting today.
You're very welcome.
Everybody loving this cooler weather?
Absolutely.
It is.
Hi, Diana.
Nice.
Hi, Nisaa.
Hello. Hello. Good to see you.
Hi, Sue Ellen.
Hello.
Hello. I wasn't sure what turnout we might have or who would be at the National APS conference this week. I know we've lost a few people. But looks like a good start, 11, and it's not even 2 yet. Hello, hello. So Nisaa, Sue Ellen, I am guessing you have a presentation and you know how to share on Teams?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. I was pretty confident that you could and did, but just want to double check. You never know.
Never hurts to check.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. We'll just, go wait till a couple minutes after 2 so we can get everybody on. Hey, there's Read AI. Read AI showed up a lot later than normal. Too funny. All right. Well, hello, Pat.
Well, hello there. How are you?
Great, thank you.
I'm glad I could make today.
Yes, yes, we're glad too.
So many familiar faces.
Yes, that's always nice, right?
Dana, while we're waiting, I just am going to mention that I just hopped off of a summit called the National Summit to Increase Social Connections. Some of you may have been on that already because it was 3 or 4 hours yesterday and 3 or 4 hours today. I think they go till 3 o'clock. But anyway, they were talking about community care hubs. There was a whole presentation and I thought, what is a community care hub and where are they in Tarrant County? So Gemini identified community care hubs as being like the Tarrant County Resource Connection. I don't know if you've ever attended their meetings. I've been to a few of those. The Union Gospel Missions Community Outreach Center, the City of Fort Worth Community Action Partners, Salvation Army, Maybe Social Service Center, North Texas Area Community Health Centers, which is a federally qualified health center with multiple locations in Tarrant County, Arlington, North Side, and Southeast Fort Worth. Tarrant County Public Health. Anyway, it went on. There are 5 or 6 more.
Wow. Okay.
Organizations that are called community care hubs.
That is an interesting concept because we have Texas Healthy at Home, which is one of the co-leads for the coalition, and they're considered a hub
today. Yeah, they were one of the presenters in this summit. Yeah.
Oh, okay, great, great. I'm glad to see that they're getting out there, but yeah, they're working to get social determinants of health and working as collaborative partners to address that as well. Yeah.
They were
Very
also
cool.
talking about Medicare, and around this time every year, actually,
Mhm.
they're asking for comments about physician reimbursement, or, how, I'm looking for my note, but anyway, how doctors are paid for certain social determinants of health. And not just doctors, but some of these nonprofit organizations can also be paid, I think, through Medicare Advantage for partnering with Medicare Advantage companies.
Yeah.
Anyway,
very
they
cool.
recorded the whole summit. I plan, since I hopped on and off various times yesterday and today, I'm going to go back over the weekend and watch it from the beginning, because there was a lot of good information.
Awesome. Very cool. Glad to hear that. All right. Looks like we have a good showing. Thank you, everyone, for being here this afternoon. Thrilled that you could make it. We know a few are at the National Adult Protective Services Conference, and but we're thrilled and fortunate to have Nisaa and Sue Ellen on today to present to us. I just wanted to let you all know the meeting is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel, like the other presenters and meetings. In case you ever want to go back and watch any, you can see them there. And Nisaa, Sue Ellen, did you want questions at the end or throughout?
We usually save them till the end,
Okay.
if that works for
Sounds
y'all.
good. Yeah. I'll go
And they
ahead
can
and
type them in the
introduce you.
chat too. Oh, I'm sorry. They
Okay.
can type them in the chat so they won't forget or.
Perfect. Yes. APS 101, the overview of adult protective services. We have Nisaa Muhammad, and she's the faith-based community engagement specialist representing the program of adult protective services, Region 3 of the DFW district. Her role includes collaborating with community partners, internal and external stakeholders to foster sustainable partnerships centered on the best outcomes for vulnerable adults. And Sue Ellen Stalder graduated from Texas Tech with a bachelor degree in human development and family studies. She joined the Department of Family Protective Services and then into supervising family-based investigations and alternative response. And then in 2016, she moved to APS, working community engagement in regions 1, 2, and 9. And now she's in the DFW district, and we're thrilled to have her as the faith-based and community engagement specialist. And she is also in the Region 3 of the DFW district. So you guys start your presentation.
All righty. Well, thanks for having us today. I see a lot of familiar faces on here. Some of you may, in fact, have already heard the APS 101, but probably many of you haven't. So I know there will be questions. There always are, and we love to answer them. So if you'll put them in the chat, we'll do that at the end. All right. So this is our overview of our program. And first, we're going to talk about our agency. APS is part of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services, otherwise known as DFPS. And DFPS is charged with investigating abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation of children, elderly, and adults with disabilities. And we do that by investigating and providing or arranging for services. So today's learning objectives include understanding Adult Protective Services mission and seeing some of our facts and figures, describe our APS roles and responsibilities based on our Texas statutory authorities, identify how to recognize and report abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation to our APS statewide intake. And we will explain APS investigation processes that include intake, assessment, and all the way to our findings. Our mission statement for Adult Protective Services is to protect older adults and people with disabilities from abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation by investigating and providing or arranging for services as necessary to alleviate or prevent further maltreatment. Some of our history and our facts and figures. We operate under statutory authorities of both federal and state. One of those is the Title 20 Social Security Act, which talks about the neighborhood block grant, and our Human Resources Code, Chapter 48, which basically lays out how an investigation is supposed to go for Adult Protective Services. And it also talks about obtaining records that are needed to do a thorough and complete investigation. And then we also operate under the Texas Administrative Code 705. These are fairly lengthy documents. They're interesting to read. If you want to screenshot these, you're more than welcome to go back and take a look at them. They're good to know because they do have a lot of detailed information in them. So some annual data statistics for FY 2024. Our Texas APS program in fiscal year 2024 received a total of almost 126,000 intake reports. And of those, a little over 88,000 were investigated. So of those that we investigated, almost 51,000 were validated for abuse, neglect, or exploitation. So who is eligible for an APS case? First of all, anyone 65 or older automatically can qualify to be an APS client, and that is regardless of any financial eligibility requirements. Then any adult age 18 through 64 or an emancipated minor with a substantial impairment could qualify as an APS client. So we need to talk about substantial impairment, as that's a very important piece when we're talking about our disabled adults between 18 and 64. And a substantial impairment is when there is a disability that grossly and chronically diminishes the ability to live independently or provide or arrange for self-care. This can be a medical condition, a physical condition, or an intellectual or developmental disability, reported and observed or diagnosed by a physician, and it substantially impairs that person's ability to live independently, provide self-care, or arrange for needed care. And it's going to cause a long-lasting and considerable inability to live independently or protect oneself from harm. So this is going to be a condition that is not going to heal or get better over time. It is going to be forever, basically. So in our young adults, an example that I can give you that it's a pretty drastic example, but it illustrates what we're talking about. Let's say we have a 20-year-old that was in a pretty bad car wreck and they broke their femur. They're going to need some rehab and it's going to take them some time to recover, but ultimately their prognosis is good and recovering. If that same 20-year-old is injured in a car wreck and they broke their neck and now they're a quadriplegic, they may be able to get through some rehab. They may be able to take care of some of their daily needs, but that is a substantial disability. That is changing their lives forevermore, and they're more than likely going to need some assistance. So determining substantial impairment. These are the things that our APS specialists are going to be evaluating when they meet a client. And it's basically the ability to perform activities of daily living, such as shopping, cooking, housekeeping, administering their medications, personal hygiene, taking care of that, dressing appropriately for the weather, meaning they understand that, we just came off of it's going to get hot again. Who are we kidding? These hot temperatures, they understand how to dress so that they don't get overheated and how to obtain needed medical services and support services they may need. So one thing to note here is if these are things they may not personally be able to complete, if they have the ability to incorporate their support systems or community partners to help complete these items, we don't necessarily that they're substantially impaired. they may not be able to go to the grocery store and do their own shopping, but they may understand how to work the grocery app on their phone and get their groceries ordered and delivered. So that is an example of a situation where someone might be impaired, but they can arrange for things to be done for them. So we're going to look at the definitions of abuse, neglect, and exploitation that our APS specialists work under when they have a case. And the first one we're going to take a look at is abuse. The definition of abuse is the negligent or willful infliction of injury, unreasonable confinement, intimidation, or cruel punishment that results in physical or emotional harm or pain to an elderly person or a person with a disability by that person's caretaker, family member, or other individual who has an ongoing relationship with that person. So those words in particular are in bold because that's a very important piece to remember with adult protective services. We're looking at actions that are happening to a client by someone that they know. These things are not being perpetrated by a stranger. These are by people they know, whether that's a close friend, family member, caretaker, someone with an ongoing relationship with them. Allegations of abuse, we have 3 categories: physical abuse, emotional verbal abuse, and sexual abuse. So some indicators of physical abuse, as you might imagine, would be bruises, burns, or any unexplained injury that can occur by pushing or shoving or manipulating limbs by force. Oftentimes, those type of injuries will occur by the unnecessary use of force when bathing or changing or dressing the client. And that's sometimes our clients can get combative if they're in a state of Alzheimer's or whatever reason. A caretaker may be putting limbs in unnatural or painful positions, which will cause breaks, fractures, skin tears, and extreme bruising. So that's why we have to go in and do this thorough investigation to find out what exactly was going on when these injuries occurred. Now, verbal and emotional abuse indicators are a little bit more difficult. You really do have to have a specialist that will get in and ask questions and do a lot of observing at family dynamics. If we see that a client is fearful of the perpetrator, that's obviously going to be very concerning. If our client has not had any issues with low self-esteem or depression in the past, and now they've got a new caretaker and we're seeing these symptoms, we're going to be concerned about that. If a caretaker is yelling, cursing, or screaming at our client, especially in front of our specialist, that's going to raise red flags. And any threats of harm, intimidation, statements such as, well, I'm the only caretaker you have, so if you don't like this, I'll just drop you off at the nearest nursing home. And the definition of sexual abuse. This goes along exactly with the Texas Penal Code. So if we have a case come in for sexual abuse of an adult, we're definitely going to be involving law enforcement in this, working alongside. And so the definition is non-consensual sexual activity, which may include, but it's not limited to, any activity that would be a sexually oriented offense per the Texas Penal Code, such as indecent exposure or public indecency. And this would be committed by a paid or non-paid caretaker, a family member, or another individual who has an ongoing relationship with the alleged victim. Some of the indicators of sexual abuse could include sexually transmitted diseases, an unexplained pregnancy in one of our young adults, unexplained rectal bleeding, bruising, or other injuries. And then neglect. This is one of the largest allegations that we see come through on our intakes. So neglect, the definition is the failure to provide for oneself the goods or services, that includes medical services, which are necessary to avoid physical or emotional harm or pain, or the failure of a caretaker to provide such goods or services. So we can have neglect by a caretaker, or we can have self-neglect by our clients. And we see that often, and some of those signs would include, let me go back. Physical neglect and medical neglect are 2 categories of neglect. So indicators could be, and often are, malnutrition, dehydration, and poor hygiene. Sometimes our clients, either this is due to a state of dementia or cognitive impair, or they're just simply depressed and they've gotten tired and they've kind of given up, or perhaps they're grieving the loss of their spouse. But these indicators of malnutrition, dehydration, and poor hygiene are all evidence of inadequate care, whether that's being done by a caretaker or by the client themselves. We'll often see unsafe or unsanitary living conditions. For instance, it gets a little bit more difficult to drag that trash can down to the end of the driveway for trash pickup day. So the trash piles up, and then you have rodents in the house, and this is a common thing that's seen. And then lack of basic necessities or needed equipment. That could be medical equipment, that could be safety equipment, such as grab bars in a bathroom or a ramp if someone has newly acquired a walker due to a broken hip or what have you. Behavioral indicators of neglect. These may look like fear, anxiety, or nervousness, refusal or reluctance to talk in presence of the caretaker. And just remember, these caretakers are people that our clients know. And so oftentimes, the relationship started out positive. And so our clients are very reluctant to talk in the presence of these people. We also can see disorientation or confusion, agitation, and then contradictory statements. If a family member is neglecting their mother or their grandmother or whatever the relationship is in the family, our clients don't want to get them in trouble. So they become very reluctant and they make contradictory statements. Or maybe there's a cognitive impairment, and these are where these contradictory statements are coming from. And then financial exploitation. This is another allegation that we're seeing an increase in. The DFW area has one unit dedicated only to financial exploitation cases, and we have 3 subject matter experts in the DFW area that are dedicated to working alongside our APS specialists in the investigation on financial exploitation. We have specialists and specialized units across the state as well. So the definition of financial exploitation is an alleged perpetrator illegally or improperly using or attempting to use a client's resources for monetary or personal benefit, profit, or gain without the informed consent of the client. And these can look like a caretaker, a family member, any person with an ongoing relationship with the client, but they must be known to the client. So it can't be one of the phone calls or online emails. Those things are those are going to be law enforcement or FBI related, along with scams and frauds. We're looking at exploitation done completely by someone that is more family member, direct caretaker, or neighbor, church member, someone who has a really close and direct, more face-to-face relationship with our clients. And the impact of financial exploitation on our elderly is huge, because as people age and they have planned for their retirement, I don't think most of us plan on going back to work and rebuilding our financial empire, if you will, at the age of 70, 75, 80 years old. So obviously there's a loss of resources, which would lead to a loss of independence, and that increases mental health issues amongst our elderly. Most of our elderly folks have paid their bills on time most of their life, and this is a huge stress to them mentally and emotionally. And like I said, the inability to replace lost assets through employment as we age and get older is very, very difficult. Also, there's an inability to hire attorneys to pursue legal protections and remedies due to how much, that's very expensive. Legal aid has a long waiting list. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is the person exploiting our clients is someone that they know, and usually a family member. And so even though they know what's been done to them is wrong, they really don't want to get them in trouble. So indicators of financial exploitation could look like a sudden change in bank account or banking practices. Most of our clients who are over 65 have banked the same way since they opened up their bank account for the very first time. So if something changes in how they bank, that should be a red flag. Any unexplained withdrawal of money should also be an alert that something could be going on. A sudden use of an ATM card when our client had really never used ATM cards before would be a red flag. And then any unpaid bills, despite having enough money in their account and they're not paying their bills like they normally have done in the past, would also be a sign. So alleged perpetrator indicators and red flags include when the alleged perpetrator prevents the client from speaking or seeing visitors, friends, or family. This is where someone is isolating our client and not allowing them to see their usual friends and family that they have always visited with. If there's anger, indifference, or aggressive behavior toward the client from the alleged perpetrator, we're going to be interested in knowing that. The alleged perpetrator has a history of substance abuse, mental illness, criminal behavior, or family violence. Oftentimes, we will see family members who have been recently released from hospitals or have been incarcerated in the past, and now they've come into the home of our clients. Perhaps they're living there, and we start having signs of financial exploitation. And then if the alleged perpetrator has a lack of affection towards the client, that's definitely going to be one of the indicators we're going to assess during our investigation.
Okay, so Sue Ellen has talked about our definitions and our statutory authority as well as our mission. And now we'll turn a little bit towards investigations. During our investigations, we want to talk about who can be an alleged perpetrator. Within self-neglect, within neglect, Sue Ellen talked about it can be the client themselves. So those are people that through the investigation will be investigated and services can be provided for, as well as a caretaker, family member, or anyone who has an ongoing relationship with the client. For the purposes of adult protective services, the alleged perpetrator has to have an ongoing relationship with the client, meaning there's some type of, and when I say intimate, not in any physical contact, but there's some kind of intimate relationship where they are relying on each other, or there is some form of communication with them that is more than just like online or on the telephone, like someone talked about. So this is everybody that can be investigated by adult protective services, the client, the caretaker, family member, or anyone with an ongoing relationship with the client. So where do we investigate? Adult Protective Services is responsible for investigating in the community. So we investigate abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation for those individuals who reside in the community. That could be in their private home, meaning the personal residence, or if they're living with a friend or family member in another residence, that is also in the community. They can be unhoused and living in, a tent or in a shelter. Those are all considered in the community. Additionally, they could live in an adult foster home or in an assisted living, as well as in boarding homes. Now, boarding homes is something that there's more and more legislation regarding boarding homes, as well as city ordinances. But for adult protective services in boarding homes, we would be looking to see that individual and how adult protective services can investigate either abuse, neglect, or financial exploitation for individuals who meet APS criteria who reside in boarding homes. If the boarding homes should be licensed by Health and Human Services, then a separate report will be made for that home to be investigated. But Adult Protective Services in particular would be providing services or investigating for the individuals who meet criteria for APS who are residing within the boarding home. So what does our investigation process look like? When a report is made, it's made either to our hotline or through our online portal, and it goes to our statewide intake department. Statewide intake will receive that report, and based on the address, county, and zip code, it to the appropriate district, and then sent to the appropriate unit and caseworker in order to be investigated and worked. When that report is received, it is also assigned a priority, and those priorities for adult protective services can be from priority 1, being the most urgent, to priority 4, being in priority 1, being the most urgent. That investigator has 24 hours from the time that report was received by statewide intake to attempt or make a face-to-face visit with that client. If it is assigned a priority 2, then that caseworker has 3 days to make a face-to-face visit or to attempt to see that client face-to-face. If it is a priority 3, then they have 7 days to make a face-to-face visit or to attempt to make a face-to-face visit. And if our priority is 4, and that is reserved for allegations that only allege exploitation, then the APS investigator specialist has 14 days to attempt or to make that face-to-face visit. And the only reason I use the word attempt to make a face-to-face visit within that time frame is because that initial time that they're trying to go out, if for whatever reason the client is not at the address specified, the goal is that they are going to try and make a face-to-face visit within that time frame to ensure the client's safety and well-being. So within that priority assignment. But no matter what the assignment is, whatever priority is assigned, within 24 hours, there will be what is called a case initiation. So within 24 hours of that report being received by statewide intake, the investigator will reach out to someone who has current and reliable information regarding the client situation to ensure that that client will remain safe until a face-to-face visit can be made. And so no matter what the priority, whether it's a 1, 2, or 4, there is going to be an initiation of that case from someone who has current and reliable information regarding the client's condition to confirm that the priority assigned is appropriate and that the client will be safe until the face-to-face visit will be made. Throughout the course of the investigation, there will be an interview with the alleged victim, as well as all collaterals that have information regarding the client situation, or even collaterals who are providing services or need to be made, or referrals that need to be made to provide the client services, as well as the alleged perpetrator. With adult protective services, the alleged perpetrator, no matter what the allegation, except for special circumstances, will have an opportunity to address the allegations that are being made against the alleged perpetrator. So not only do we interview and collect information from our alleged victim or the client, we're also going to reach out to the alleged perpetrator to answer to those allegations as well. Throughout the course of the investigation, we'll be gathering all of the evidence that is relevant to the client situation and to the allegations, as well as to gathering information to provide services or resources if necessary. And throughout the course of the investigation, there will be safety assessments to ensure that the client remains safe, or that the client is not deteriorating or the situation is not changing too much. And if